Hi there, this is Oscar with the Lens Depot, and today we're going to go over our DJI quadcopter Phantom 2. This instructional video is to help you, especially if you've never flown one of these, to get you going, kind of go over what we supply, how to set it up, and get you going. I mean, an amazing piece of gear that will take your photos and videos to the next level. Just takes a little bit of time. You know, you need to practice and, you know, follow this instructional video and you'll be just fine. Now, let me go over what it actually comes with. So everything, you know, comes with, in one of these cases where whether or not you're picking up at our Orlando location or Tampa location or shipping it directly to you. So everything fits in a case. So the quadrocopter will come obviously assembled with the 4 props. We do give you an extra set of props just in case, which I'll go over how to, you know, replace them if you need to. Hopefully that'll never happen, but you know it does happen, and I'll show you in a minute how to you know, put that together. So it comes with 2 batteries, 2 fully charged batteries. Comes with the transmitter. It also comes with some manuals for both, some basic manuals for both the Phantom and for the FPV monitor. There's a list of what we supply, so when you're packing it up to send it back to us or to drop it off, you know exactly what needs to be back in there. And this really bright orange checklist that, you know, once you're ready to fly, you know, I would have it handy, you know, to go over, you know, last minute items just to make sure that you've followed everything and you're ready to fly. Also, we have a charger in here. Again, like I said, both of the batteries are charged. You know, if they're depleted, they'll probably take about an hour to an hour and a half to charge. Each battery will give you about 20 minutes. I wouldn't take it the full 20 minutes, and I'll get into that a little bit more later in the video. Right around 15 minutes or so, I would start, you know, bringing her back. There's also a charger for the battery for the FPV. So here's the monitor. Again, we'll get into that in a moment. There's a Canon LP-E6 charger, and it comes with an aftermarket Canon LP-E6 battery with a tray. So basically, you know, you charge it. This takes about 2 hours, and it's good for about an hour and 15 minutes of FPV time. And then you just put it back into the cradle like so, and then insert it into the back of the monitor. The monitor's already, you know, calibrated and set to the quadrocopter, so the switches, the little dip switches in the back, you don't have to fool with that. So we'll go over that in a second. There's also a sunshade that comes with the FPV monitor as well. So first thing is first, you know, you want to make sure that you have a GoPro, Hero 3 or Hero 3 Plus. We've had a few customers use the 4 and tell us, you know, that there's not a problem. This gimbal, however, from DJI was designed for the 3 and the 3 Plus. They do have a different one, or a newer one, I should say, only for the Hero 4. So again, we don't recommend. There's a balancing issue supposedly with the Hero 4, so I wouldn't recommend using the Hero 4. So you know, once you get it, it shall be ready to go. The transmitter and the Phantom have been calibrated together. You will need some AA batteries for the transmitter. So first thing you want to do is you want to install, before you turn it on, you want to install your GoPro. So on this one I already have a GoPro installed, but basically it's going to sit in this tray here. There's a bracket that goes over the GoPro, and we'll supply the bracket. We'll supply the 2 screws on either end. Want to make sure you don't tighten these too tight because it can snap this bracket, and we do give you a hex wrench. You'll then plug in this little dongle into the USB connection of your GoPro. You want to make sure that your GoPro is ready to go. The batteries are charged, the SD card is ready to go. You've set all your settings before you put it in the tray. You want to make sure that your Wi-Fi is off. That way there's no interference with the transmitter. So before you turn it on, again, GoPro needs to be installed. You don't want to turn on the Phantom without the GoPro because the tray is going to be looking for it. It's going to be trying to calibrate the weight, and it's just not going to work. It's just going to sit around and flop all over the place. Then you want to install one of the batteries. Okay, you can just click on the battery to see the life of the battery. Obviously, this one needs a little bit of charging. To kind of give you an idea. And that installs right into the back. There's only one way that the battery goes in, as you can see. Just slide it in. They are typically a little tight and a little tight to come off, but that's normal. Now, last thing before we turn this on, there's a transmitter, an antenna transmitter. There's not enough room for us to have the antennas already on here when we ship them to you. So you got to make sure that you install one of the antennas. Both of the antennas that we give you are identical. Install the antenna so that just screws right on. If you do not install the antenna and turn on the transmitter or turn on the Phantom, it's going to burn out the transmitter and you're probably not going to get video, and we're going to have to replace it and we're going to have to charge you. So just remember, before you turn it on, GoPro, ready to go, and the antenna. So to turn it on, all you need to do is click the battery once. Within 2 seconds, click it again and hold it. Series of lights. Now you're going to see that the GoPro is going to try to calibrate itself. It's going to do some movements there. So you want to make sure that before you turn it on, that it's on a flat surface and it's not in the grass kind of sinking in, because it's going to be touching the ground. Make sure again it's on a flat surface. The next thing we want to do, now obviously we're outside. We're away from cars, away from power lines, away from buildings. You want to, especially if it's your first time, you want to make sure that you're in an open area, that it's not snowing, that it's not raining, that it's not very windy. The first thing we're going to do after you think you're good to go is you want to set the compass. Okay, or set the home position, I'm sorry. So this is very important only because if your batteries die on the transmitter, or you fly away too far, or there's some interference, the Phantom loses connection with the transmitter, it's going to come back to the home position. Also, you want to make sure that this is done, outside on a level surface, not on a moving boat. If you do it on a moving boat, it's going to come back to that last home position. It's going to go right into the water. So you want to make sure that you do this on a flat, stable, non-moving surface. So as you can see, the lights in the back now are flashing yellow. So we want to set the home position. You want to make sure that when you receive our transmitter that the switches are all the way up. They might have moved, when we're putting them in or you're taking them out, that they're all the way up. You want to, make sure you have some batteries and you want to turn it on. What you do is you would click this transmitter 7 times, up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yellow lights in the back now have stopped. Now what we need to do is calibrate the compass. That way it knows where it's at. So the first thing you do, just lift it straight up and then just start turning it around. That's the first step. Just keep doing that until the backlights turn green. Okay. Then you want to flip the Phantom nose down. So the front of the Phantom nose down, or where the GoPro is facing, straight down, antenna up. So now your GoPro and the gimbal are going to be moving around making some weird noises. That's normal. Then you want to keep turning this around, just kind of slowly, a couple times. Okay. Until your lights start flashing. Okay. If these lights were to turn red at this point, yellow and red, then you didn't do it correctly. You have to do it again. So I'm inside right now, so it's probably not going to be setting the compass correctly. But if you were outside, it would start pulsing slow green. Now, what it's trying to do is acquire the GPS signal. I would let it sit here for about 30 seconds or so in the FPV monitor. So the nice thing about having the FPV, obviously you can fly these without an FPV, you're going to see data on the monitor that's going to tell you whether or not it has acquired GPS signal. So you're going to see an overlay, you're going to see a few things from your settings on your GoPro, like the 1080p or 720p, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. You're going to see that, but you're also going to see an overlay from the Phantom. That when it's up in the air, it'll tell you the distance away from you, the height in the air, the traveling speed, things like that. So before you turn it on, you want to make sure that you see on the bottom left-hand side, it'll say ATT, which is manual mode, and then it's going to start flashing GPS, ATT, GPS. It's trying to acquire signal. You're going to see a little symbol on the right-hand side for a satellite. So you want to wait until you have 6 or more satellites. So at this point, what I would do is turn it on. So the way you would turn it on is you would flip the switches toward you, kind of toward the corners, and it's going to turn on the blades. I would then let it sit for about another 30 seconds, and then that ATT will go away, and it'll lock onto GPS. Before you start flying, make sure that thing says GPS. Another way to tell is that the green lights in the back are going to be pulsing green every 2 seconds or so. You're ready to go. You've acquired GPS. So if you've never flown one of these, keep in mind, you can fly it obviously by looking at it and looking at your FPV. The nice thing about the FPV, first-person view, is that you're going to see what the GoPro sees. It's only like you were the fighter pilot. You're in the GoPro, you can see. So if it's facing towards you and you're looking at the FPV, forward is forward, back is back. Move right, move left. Yaw left would turn left, yaw right, ascend and descend. Okay? If you have the GoPro facing you and you're looking at the quadcopter, not looking at the FPV, then keep in mind that everything's going to be backwards. So if you push forward, it's going to come towards you. So if you have it facing away from you, you're looking at the back, you're looking at the antenna, then it's normal. It's just like if you're looking at the FPV. So just keep that in mind. It takes a little bit of time to play with it. The nice thing is that once you have acquired GPS, all you have to do to take off after the blades are spinning is just push up. When you start pushing up, it'll rev itself up and take off. Wherever you let go, it's going to sit there. Okay? So if you get it up to 20 feet, it's just going to sit there. Depending on how windy it is, it'll probably kind of move around and do its thing, but it's going to stay within a 3 or 4 foot radius. So it's real easy to take it up. The hardest part is landing them. People come down too fast. Okay? They hit the ground. That gimbal touches the ground, it bends, it can't be fixed, it has to be replaced. They destroy motors, they destroy props, things like that. The hardest part, again, is landing it. Take your time landing it. When you're about 1 foot or 2 feet off the ground, there's going to be what they call rotor wash underneath. Okay, it's going to be making it bounce up. It'll bounce up and then slowly bring it down. Right before it touches the ground, just pull down and hold it. It's going to stop. The rotors will go down to like an idle, and then you want to shut them off. So then obviously you do the same thing. Toward the corners, shut them off, shut the battery off. Battery, again, turning it on, hit it once, hit it again, hold it for 2 seconds to turn it on. Same thing to shut it off. Hit it again, hit it a second time, hit it once, hit it a second time, hold it for a few seconds, and it shuts off. And then you're good to go. So, again, practice, landing it. Getting it up in the air and flying it around is fairly easy. Now, once it's up in the air, you have a little bit of control with the gimbal. Obviously, the gimbal's gonna, it's gonna keep that video very solid. You have a little bit of control with the gimbal, and the way you adjust it is in the back here. You just move it forward and backward. Actually, let me just turn it here so you can see. So if you look at the GoPro, you can kind of angle it up or angle it down. Now, we do supply a USB cable. There are a lot of settings that you can go in and change on the Phantom. It's set to default settings. It's got a ceiling of 400 feet, which you shouldn't go over. It has, the settings that I just showed you for the GoPro. You can adjust them further, though. You'd have to download the Phantom Vision Plus software and connect the USB cable to your computer. This connection up front here, and then you can adjust a few things. But for the most part, most people don't need to fool with it. and you'll be fine. So let me just show you real quick how to set up the monitor and the controller. This is what it looks like when it's all set up. You have the antenna on the top, and the antennas are the same, so it doesn't matter which one goes on the Phantom and which one goes on the monitor. But basically, you're going to see a small little bag, and in this bag you're going to have the 2 screws and the bracket for your GoPro. You're going to have this Allen key. There's going to be a small screw. When you get our FPV, you want to take that off, and basically that will slide onto that end there of the transmitter. Just slide it, put the screw in, make sure it's nice and tight, and you'll be fine. Now, battery-wise, the battery is a Canon LPE6 knockoff. We do provide a charger. It does take about 2 hours to charge if it's fully depleted. And when you're using it, it's good for about an hour and a half on the FPV. So basically, the battery comes off of the little tray. Charge it, put it back on the tray, as so, and then you want to slide it and put it on the back of the monitor. There's some dip switches down here. You don't have to fool with those. Those are already set up. And again, if I haven't covered it already, the transmitter and the Phantom are already bound, so you don't have to do any of that. So let me talk about distance, as far as how far I can go, and it's a video limitation. So the transmitter to the Phantom is good for 1,000 meters. It's 3,000 feet. That's a little bit over half a mile. You don't want to take it that far. You're not going to see it, obviously. The transmitter for the video is 5.8 gigahertz. It's a stronger band as far as bandwidth, but it does have its limitations. So depending on where you're at, how much interference there is around you, you're only going to go probably about 100 meters or about 300 feet or so away before you start losing signal to the monitor. The best I've gotten is over a lake, no trees, no houses, and that's probably about 200 meters or about 600 feet. And that was probably about as good as it gets. So, if you get a little bit of static, that's normal. This is an analog system. It's not an HD system, so that's normal. We do have limited quantity, a better antenna for the monitor. You would have to, before you place the order, you just have to contact us and ask us if we have one, and it would be no charge. And we've been able to see probably, about 600 to 700. Some people have gotten a little bit further as well, but you have to have perfect line of sight, meaning the quadcopter can't be behind you. So just a few things to finish up here. If you have to replace one of the blades, they are self-locking, so they go in one direction, come off of in another. Again, we give you another full set of them. So as you can see, opposites are black tips, and then these are silver. So you just got to make sure that you put the right ones on. So they come off in one direction, okay, and then they only go on in another direction, and they self-tighten. So there's nothing else you have to do other than make sure you turn them and make sure you kind of hold on to the motor a little bit and tighten it and hold it. So there's that. Also, make sure flight time. It's about 20 minutes with the GoPro. It all depends though on how high you're going, how fast you're going, how much wind there is, how much resistance it has. I start pulling them in at about 15 minutes. The back lights are going to start pulsing red, letting you know that you're at 20%. Okay, and we have them set up that if the battery gets to 10%, they're automatically going to come back to the home position. So you're going to be able to see in your monitor when you get to that 20% mark. So when you get to that 20% mark, make sure you start coming back. Okay, we've had a couple customers that have started to try to land them. when it gets to the 10% mark. And what's going to happen, regardless of where it's at, if you're landing it or if you're flying it, it's going to go up to 60 feet and then it's going to come back home. So if you're landing it and it gets to that 10% threshold, it's going to take off again and get up to 60 feet, and then it's going to come down by itself and land. Again, when it's landing, you know, you have to keep an eye on it. You know, it's based on GPS. GPS isn't perfect, so it's going to be within a 3 or 4 foot space. So it might not be, you know, landing in the perfect spot. Some customers have, you know, felt a little bit comfortable when it's coming down to kind of grab one of the legs and instead of landing it. So that's one thing you can do. But again, you know, we're here for you. If you have any questions, it doesn't matter how many questions you have. Until you feel comfortable, don't take it up in the air. Just give us a call, and you know, myself or one of my techs can walk you through it, can answer any questions you might have, can help you troubleshoot. Just give us a call. We're here for you. 407-964-1075. Thanks for watching.